Nice work. Engineer Steve, always keeping it fun for us in the stash. I appreciate you with your joiners, brother. And I appreciate you guys for coming back live. Real Talk Radio San Diego. We got you locked down here every Tuesday from 10 until noon, tracking down some cool local people, talking about some important local stuff. And I feel like we fit the bill this week with Sue Loftin, owner of the Loftin Firm. You can catch her, by the way, at loftinfirm.com. And we're getting our hands wrapped around this idea that Sue has basically, I don't want to say you've trademarked it, but this is sort of a unique approach to the whole conversation about how to come up with creative business perspectives to potential legal issues. And I love that story you shared in the first segment about the mobile home park and about taking on the building department. I love that about you. I'm going to be calling you about some of those situations, I think, coming up. And if you're curious at all about how Sue might be able to help you, you're welcome to call in. We got a live number at 866-405-1717, or we're actually streaming this live on the Meerkat app right now. You go to our Twitter handle at Follow the Stash, and you could ask any question live for Sue. Now, Sue, I was talking earlier about the context of like the cocktail party, so maybe we can keep that same theme throughout here. So someone bumps into you and they want learn a little bit more, like exactly what it is. Like, how did you get started? Like, so maybe you can go back and share some what life experiences prepared you for this role.
Well, how I got started is kind of an unusual story. I was at UCSD working on my PhD in philosophy and needed to work. So I got hired by a law firm to work with one of the senior partners. It was a dad's and son's law firm in East County. Okay. And Dick Adams was in his late 80s at the time, and he had gotten very interested in mobile home parks. So I went to court with him. I went to Sacramento with him to lobby. I did editing for him and those kinds of things, and fell in love with practicing law. So then I went to law school and stayed working with him for those years. And when I passed the bar, my present was he had the mobile home park clients assign their cases to me. So I'd been a lawyer for a week.
Yeah, right.
And ended up a week later in a trial with 3 opposing counsels. Fortunately, I knew the case because I'd been working with him, but I was quite taken aback at the gift.
Yeah.
He and his wife took off for Europe for a year. And so that's how I started in real estate, was through the mobile home park industry.
What a remarkable opportunity, right?
Oh, it was. I was very fortunate and very appreciative.
So you've mentioned the trailer park concept a couple people. Most lawyers would probably scoff at that. Like, you're actually looking forward to working with trailer people.
They do. They make fun of it. And business people a lot of times make fun of it. They think, oh, it's just those tin boxes and there's nothing else to it. It is, the mobile home park laws are very specific, very complicated, and you deal with land use, you deal with corporate law, you deal with the leases, rules and regulations, evictions, major lawsuits with primarily against local jurisdictions. And so we all joke in the office, we look forward to getting a traditional commercial deal, because they're so straightforward compared to all of the layers in a mobile home park.
It's very, I almost want to call it Wild Westy, isn't it? Kind of, because it's like for example, for our domain, everything is so regulated. It's not quite like financial industry regulated, but it's the cousin of it. You're working within a finite box for the most part. But trailer parks, it's very private, right? Because they're kind of, everybody's sort of almost doing their own thing.
It used to be that way when I started. It's now highly regulated.
Okay, so that's coming around.
It's highly regulated for construction, for building the mobile homes have to be built to the federal standards. But in terms of the personalities, it's still very much and the conflicting interest in rental mobile home parks, where you have residents who own the mobile home,
right,
and an investor operator who owns the mobile home park,
right,
and the land,
right.
And so the competing interest is the mobile home owners want the cheapest rent for their space, and the mobile home park owners want the most.
Right.
And so it is in that respect, over the years, it has been like the Wild West.
Yeah, imagine that, right?
Yeah, but since then, there have been, we started in the early 80s assisting residents with buying their mobile home parks. So that's another type of mobile home park now where they're resident owned.
Mm.
And then there are certain nonprofits that have come in and buy them and operate them as nonprofits. So it's not one, everybody calls all of them mobile home parks, but they are extremely different in terms of regulations and what needs to be done.
Very segmented based on what type they are, like categorically speaking.
Yes.
Got it. So you would say you've carved out a nice little niche here with this, right? You can thank Dick for that.
Yes. And I thanked him, and I thanked his son and the other two partners who were Bruce's at the time. It really, not only did it give me a nice niche, it put me in a niche that was where I had to learn a broad range of skills.
No question. Yeah, which is the definition truly of a good niche to have, because it gets the breadth of it is so expansive, and then you become the person they come to. So, like, in that respect, like, how are you different from anybody else who, like, maybe your competitors who also are in this space?
The primary difference is that we represent resident groups, park owners, and cities.
Okay, resident groups, park owners, and cities. Okay.
And typically, and oftentimes we get criticized for that, but it's my position is that if you follow the laws and if you are a reasonable person, then you're going to have a good community. So that, and we try and take out the conflicts between the different ownership interests. For the cities, we generally act as special counsel, working with them on their mobile home park issues to try and come up with solutions with the same goal in mind. Let's settle this housing group so that it is a productive, well-preserved housing opportunity for our community.
Yeah, I like that thought. You know, so let's say someone's listening to you for the first time right now, okay? And who knows, maybe they've even talked to somebody, either a friend or casually in a conversation, where maybe they want to be somebody, you know, they want to get into the mobile home business or whatever, you know. Maybe the investor, like you said, who kind of owns the land, or like, what are some ways that you might be able to help somebody who is curious about getting into this this little niche, as you said?
What we do is have them come in and really identify what their goals are.
Okay.
The most common issue that we see is that people think, I'm going to build or buy a mobile home park, other people are going to put the homes on, and then it's all going to, then I just get money.
Right.
And the regulations and the laws, both state and federal, are complicated. Then you have the local jurisdictions. Then you have the NIMBY people in the local jurisdictions.
No question.
And
I got to imagine that's got to be one of the most difficult parts of it. Because, of course, in my domain, Sue, you know, helping folks get into and out of stick-built homes, you know, single families, condos. Come on. I mean, that's no one wants to be next to the trailer park. Let's call the spade, you know, because of the and it doesn't have to even be right or wrong, but definitely the perception of what that means to them and their property values. So the hardest thing I got to imagine is somebody wanting to build a new one because of all the people that are already currently there being like, I don't want that.
What people forget is that they're not trailers anymore. They're not truly mobile. Once they're put on with the new ones, with
on the permanent foundation,
and with all of the other exterior aesthetics, they're beautiful.
Right.
And when you put them, and in fact you can put them on residential. One of the trends that we're seeing is people tearing down an old residential home and putting in a manufactured home.
Right.
Because they are, in many instances, better built. They're because of the federal regulations, and they are aesthetically extremely pleasing.
Oh, from a production perspective, they're incredibly efficient.
Yes.
And not just how much it costs versus like a traditional stick-built, almost custom home, and then also for like the quality. Would you say from the time that you started in the industry to today, it's like night and day?
It is night and day.
Yeah, no question. The only challenge I think to maybe, argue the other side is that it's a little more challenging to get, like, for example, leverage. Like lenders have a tough time getting on board with those unless they fit a particular little mold. Like they want them to be the permanent foundation. I forget the name. You'd know this better, but there's like a certificate that they have to get and stuff like that. And so, like, that's the group. And then all the other ones, like, they don't want to really mess with those too much. Like the ones that are kind of more mobile-y. Those are more difficult to get financing on.
The older homes,
yeah,
that are not on permanent foundations, that are in rental mobile home parks or out on a strictly residential place, are very difficult to get financing. They are older, they don't meet the building codes, and so on.
Right.
So that's true.
Hanging out with Sue Loftin. You can catch her, by the way, at loftinfirm.com, or you can call her directly at 760-431-2111. Now, Sue, coming up, I want to get a little bit deeper into this understanding about specifically how you are able to help somebody who is inside of one of these spaces. So we've kind of talked about it almost from a 30,000-foot perspective a little bit moving in. You shared some great stories. We sort of talked proverbially about this, but I want to get into the weeds about how someone raises their hand and specifically how you might be able to help them. So we're going to tackle that right after we come back. So, gang, CBS Sports coming. This is ESPN, right, Sue? So we got to get caught up on some ESPN sports stuff. Lots of stuff to talk about. Oh, I'm sure they're going to touch on those poor Chargers. But right after that, we'll be right back. Real Talk Radio with more from San Diego and Sue Loftin.